Complex General Hospital.
The gloomy lighting in the corridor of General Hospital, which cast considerable shadows and served as a backdrop for the tension that was beginning to build up between Christina and Ava, was a contributing factor in the development of an uneasy atmosphere. In response to the bombshell that had just been delivered, Christina's face revealed a mixture of shock and betrayal, and her eyes were wide as she struggled to digest the information that had been presented to her. The very first thing that Ava did was pronounce the word Christina in a low voice that was tinged with a sense of desperation throughout the entire conversation. As she made a careful attempt to extend her hand, Christina reacted by taking a step back and recoiling, as if Ava's contact could possibly burn her. She did this because she was afraid of being burned. She did this because she was concerned about the possibility of getting burned. The question is, why would you choose to behave in such a way? In spite of the fact that Christina's voice was scarcely heard above a whisper, it carried the entire force of her disappointment and dread. The fact that her voice was difficult to hear did not prevent this from happening. After considering all you've done to my family and everything we've gone through together, I honestly started to feel that you had changed into a different person. This was because of everything you've done to my family. Many challenges have been overcome by my family as a unit. The expression of regret that was on Ava's face became distorted, and her eyes were somewhat down as a result of the fact that she was unable to meet Christina's accusatory gaze despite her best efforts. Despite the fact that she was being truthful with herself, she still managed to stammer out, I thought I was doing the right thing, despite the fact that she was aware of how hollow the words sounded. My impression was that this would guarantee the well-being of each and every individual. The fact that Christina was in a state of shock was made abundantly evident by the fact that she let out a violent laugh. As the expression of fear spread across her face, it totally covered her face. Who is your guardian? Who exactly is it that you are able to protect, Ava? Simply put, who are you? On the other hand, do you continue to be of the opinion that a twisted understanding of love is sufficient to justify everything that has happened? As a consequence of this, Ava's barriers started to break down, and her eyes started coming out of their sockets. I solemnly swore to myself, Christina, that I would not do that. My mind suddenly came to the realization that, what do you think about being asked? Thought what? My conversation was abruptly cut off by Christina, who escalated the loudness of her voice. At that moment, I was in the midst of a sentence. Is it your intention to indicate that it would be advantageous for my family if you were to pull the strings and keep secrets to yourself? If I'm being completely honest with you, I was beginning to get the feeling that you might have changed for the better. You are someone in whom I have entire faith, Ava. When Ava experienced a quick flash of suffering, their generally calm demeanor was abruptly interrupted, and as a result, her expression underwent a significant transformation. At this point, Christina, it is impossible to overestimate the significance of your comprehension. You have my deepest apologies for all that has taken place. A situation like this is something that I have never, ever wanted to take happen in my life. All I was doing was making an effort to do this. What is it? Immediately when Christina's voice broke, it became abundantly evident that she was feeling a tone that was a combination of fury and hopelessness. Are you able to resolve the issues? To put it another way, Ava, please understand that you do not have the authority to decide what is in our best interest. Rather than love, this is the possession of something. Love is not the same thing. In addition, I am perplexed as to how you continue to cause harm to the individuals that you assert to care for while at the same time you are doing so. In order to get herself ready to do something that was not something that came easily to her, Ava was able to swallow her pride and take a breath that was shaking as she prepared to apologize. Additionally, she was able to tell herself that she was sorry. Based on my current understanding of the circumstances, it is not possible to undo the actions that I have taken. Furthermore, I am aware of the reality that words will not be able to solve this problem. I am aware of this fact. Having said that, there is Christina. Please accept my sincere apologies for the hardship that this has caused. The expression of hesitation that Christina made toward Ava was unmistakable and could not be misunderstood. What is it that gives you the impression that merely expressing sorry will make any of this predicament any better? Are you really under the impression that a straightforward declaration of regret is all that is required to put everything back where it belongs? Due to the chaos that has befallen my family, my faith in you has been entirely shattered. I am completely unable to trust you anymore. Ava appeared to lower her gaze, despite the fact that her voice was hardly audible of a whisper all during the conversation. In my opinion, it is not something that will take place or occur. That, on the other hand, is the only thing that I am able to reveal at this particular time. Christina's jaw muscles became more rigid, and at the same time, she started to experience a rise in the number of tears that she shed in her eyes. It is essential that you, Ava, are conscious of the fact that there was a period of time when I could have honestly believed what you were saying. However, at this point in time, I am unable to respond with a definitive answer. You are always so willing to apologize after the damage has been done, but you never give any thought to the consequences until it is too late. You are always so ready to apologize. Even though you are always so well prepared to apologize, this is the situation that you find yourself in. The shaking of Ava's hands was a direct effect of the anxiety that she was experiencing as a consequence of her efforts to exert control over her feelings. Christina, you are 100% correct in each and every regard. As a result of the numerous errors that I have committed, a few of the people who hold a vital place in my life have fallen victim to unfortunate consequences. This time, on the other hand, I did not intend for things to develop to the extent that they have by the time they have reached this point. This very moment, I have. Her tone was loud and abrasive as Christina interrupted her with the command, "Stop." It was in her voice that she made the request. You always have an explanation for why things went wrong in any case. However, you never explain why you selected the road that led to everything in the first place. This is because you never explain why you took the path that led to everything. The ordinarily self-assured appearance of Ava was entirely demolished right in front of her very eyes as her face distorted with shame during the situation. It is without a doubt that you are absolutely correct. Since I do not deserve your forgiveness, I beg your pardon. I ask that you pardon me. As a person who is aware of the fact that I have been involved in horrific acts and that I have caused harm to other people who have an important position in my life, I would want to express my regret. Christina, despite everything, I want to reassure you that I will do everything in my power to fix this issue. I will do everything in my power. In spite of the fact that Christina's appearance became slightly more gentle, the agony that she was going through did not disappear. It would be a good idea for you to begin by removing yourself from our life if you honestly mean what you say. To begin, this would be an excellent place to begin. Put an end to your attempts to exercise control over everyone and stop interfering with the lifestyles of other people without permission. It is imperative that you refrain from bringing the persistent disturbance that you bring into our lives on a consistent basis for the time being. Due to the fact that she was whispering, Ava gave a slight signal of agreement, but it was barely discernible. In the event that this is what you want, You may confidently count on me to accomplish your request, to offer you and your family the space that you so justly deserve. I would want to take a step back and give you some space instead. I am sorry for the trouble that this has caused." While she was scrutinizing her, Christina's eyes conveyed a sense of both disbelief and tentative acceptance that she was experiencing. This was happening at the same moment. "Ava, I am not confident that I will ever be able to forgive you for everything that you have done. I am not sure that I will forgive you. On the other hand, if you genuinely do follow your word this time, I might be able to consider you to be someone who is truly experiencing remorse for the actions that you performed. This is because you have shown commitment to honoring your word. You, on the other hand, are solely responsible for all of it." It was clear that Ulva was experiencing feelings of regret, as evidenced by the fact that she appeared to give a nod of sorrow. "At this point, Christina, I am able to comprehend the situation. In addition to that, I will make every effort to demonstrate to you that I am taking this situation seriously this time around by doing everything in my ability to do so." When Christina turned around and departed, she did so with a heavy heart, leaving Ava standing alone in the corridor with the faint illumination. Ava was left standing there by herself. It was just Ava who was left standing there by herself. The very first time in a very long time that Ava felt the full and total weight of her deeds, she came to the understanding that no apology could ever truly fix the damage that she had inflicted. This was the first time that she had experienced this feeling. Regardless,
Can't be the only way to save Alexis.
The only other option I can see is to allow Alexis to go to trial, and that's not going to end.
In the tranquil setting of the Metro Court, Jason Morgan sipped his coffee while he waited for Diane Miller. He was in the Metro Court for a while. In spite of the fact that the attorney had requested the meeting, Jason was unable to comprehend what she had in mind for the encounter. Because of his familiarity with Diane, he was able to appreciate the circumstances around her request to talk. It was evident to him that Diane's request was not only about business. It was a few minutes later when she entered the room, and despite the fact that her stare became more kind as she got closer, she gave off the impression of being quite the composed and professional individual. After addressing him with the name Jason, she continued to take out a chair and seat that was located on the opposite side of him. "I am grateful that we were able to meet." Jason maintained a neutral or interested expression on his face, while giving a little nod towards the speaker. In no uncertain terms, what precisely is taking place here? The ordinarily self-assured demeanor of Diane was immediately tempered by an unusually sensitive emotion, and she took a deep breath as a result. "In order to fulfill my obligation, I needed to talk to you about Sonny. All of the occurrences that have taken place in the time that he has been absent from the scene. That is what I expect. I was hoping that you could shed some light on the matter on my behalf, since I felt the need to get this off my chest, and I was hoping that you could provide some feedback." The eyes of Jason flashed a look of comprehension as he processed the information. Diane, who had been Sonny's attorney and friend for a very long time, felt the weight of it in her own special way. Sonny's absence had an effect on everyone, but Diane felt those effects more than anybody else. "It is yours to do with it. Please give me your attention." It seemed as though she was gathering her thoughts by looking down at her hands rather than at him before she turned her attention back to him. "You have to be aware, Jason, that I have committed a considerable portion of my life to defending Sonny, preventing him from getting into legal trouble, and making certain that he is protected in a secure manner. In addition, if you can believe it, I was pleased with the achievement that I had achieved. I take great pride in the fact that I am his attorney, and that I am able to provide him with support in ways that would not be feasible for anybody else. It was clear from Jason's nod that he had a comprehensive comprehension of the situation. To put it simply, Diane, you were responsible for more than just acting as his attorney. You were considered a member of his family that he counted. The smile that Diane wore was accompanied by a hint of melancholy in her eyes. Thank you very much for your assistance, and I am conscious of that. Nevertheless, seeing as how Sunny is no longer present, I am starting to wonder what my role is in this location now that he is not there. If his existence and the environment he lives in were to define me to an extreme degree, I would be a different person. I find it strange, Jason. Do you agree? My expectations were not met when I found myself experiencing such a sensation of bewilderment. Jason moved closer to the person who was speaking while maintaining a low voice. Despite this, it's not all about Sunny, is it still the case? Your life should be the primary focus of attention. The fact that Diane showed reluctance was an indication that she was uncomfortable with the idea of exposing her weaknesses. You are completely and utterly right. Over the course of all these years, it's possible that I've been hiding my identity beneath Sunny's chaos. Keeping him out of jail and avoiding the law was the cornerstone of my professional existence. However, now that things are more tranquil, it is as if I am being forced to analyze the elements of my life that are not related to it. When I was working, I was responsible for keeping him out of jail and avoiding the law. It is, in fact, completely out of whack. The load that she was bearing was something that Jason was aware of, but he was unable to effectively put it in words himself for some reason. It was not lost on him that she was carrying a lot of weight. Diane, you have worked extremely hard on that. You have given it your all. At this stage, it is inevitable to have the feeling that something is lacking from your life. She gave a slight nod of her head as she continued to stare into her cup of coffee that was yet unfinished. Having said that, Jason, there is also you to consider. You took charge of everything that Sunny had been unable to do without giving it a second thought, and you did it without hesitation. Ever find yourself wondering if you are experiencing feelings of burden? Jason offered her a smirk while keeping his eyes on her while he maintained his steady gaze. I have a strong suspicion that the decision was taken a very long time ago. This place is not the same as other places. I am conscious of the fact that this is the life I have chosen, and I am aware that there is no going back. You, on the other hand, Diane, you have options available to you. It is possible for you to participate in a different activity if you so wish. During the time that Diane was shaking her head, she let out a melancholy giggle that came out of her mouth. What would I do, if you know what I mean, Jason? My life is full of becoming a lawyer. With everything that I have put into it, I am not sure if I would be good at anything else. I have given it my complete attention. In all candor, I am unable to provide an answer to that question. It is not the circumstances that are the problem. Rather, it is the sense of urgency and the reason. It is impossible for me to understand what my role is intended to be if Sunny's universe does not function as a supporting structure. While Jason was considering what she had said, he saw a change in the expression on his face. The presence of Sunny is not required for you to make a decision on who you are. You are solely responsible for establishing an entire professional reputation for oneself. People respect you for a variety of reasons, not the least of which is the fact that you were his representative. You have earned their respect as a result of the work that you have successfully completed. Every single one of us has benefited from your support in a variety of ways that go well beyond the scope of any one particular consumer. A warmth of contentment and gratitude could be seen emanating from Diane's eyes. It is not very often that I am given the opportunity to listen to something like that. It is important for you to be aware that becoming a lawyer in this town often means nothing more than putting out fires and not gaining appreciation for the efforts you make. The grin that Jason gave her was charming and genuine at the same time. Well, you've put forth a lot of effort to earn it. Your right to find your own equilibrium is something you have worked hard to obtain. In spite of the fact that you could continue to take Sunny's cases, you should definitely give yourself some wiggle room to investigate items that are not connected to it. Those things that you have a genuine desire for. Diane cocked her head to the side at the same time that she was analyzing him critically. If I had to tell you the truth, Jason, I would say that you are probably the last person I would expect to receive advice on how to spend my life. It appears though Jason's grin had grown a little bit larger. I've been around for a long enough time to have picked up a few things, she stated in response. The noisy and hearty laughing that Diane would let out helped to ease the tension that had been building up between them. There is no doubt that you have done so. You should also be aware that it's possible that you are correct. On the other hand, it is likely that the time has come for me to start thinking about who I am outside from Sunny's world. When I wake up one day, I do not want to be confronted with the realization that I have disregarded the possibility of leading a life that is uniquely mine. A more introspective expression appeared on Jason's face as time went on. If this is the case, you should probably start with a rather little quantity. You ought to take on a case that is separate from the mafia, something that is not connected to the criminal organization. One alternative would be for you to simply take some time for yourself and research the various other choices that are accessible. Diane looked at him for the very first time, and the encounter caused her heart to be abruptly affected. She was witnessing him for the very first time. As a male, you, Jason Morgan, are a really good-looking individual. To be honest, I'm not entirely sure if I've ever brought that up to you before. The customary modesty that Jason possesses was displayed by his shrug, as is his custom. The only thing I do is make an effort to act in a moral manner. She extended her hand and gave him a little squeeze while she was on the opposite side of the table. It is because of our chat that I am thankful to you. In order to make a report, I am of the opinion that I required the support of a person who would remind me that there is more to life than just the approaching legal battle. There is a possibility that I will even go on a vacation. This time, it will be a genuine vacation, and I won't just be attempting to get away from a case. A brief moment of agreement was reached, according to Jason's point of view. Indeed, this is the situation. Let's go ahead and take a nap. It is commensurate with your work. After a long, deep breath, Diane exhaled, and she felt lighter than she had in years. At that moment, she exhaled deeply. It's possible that I truly am Jason, but you never know, do you? It is even feasible that I will discover something that I enjoy doing just as much as having a career in the legal field. The extraordinary sound of Jason's own laughter was so impressive that even he appeared surprised. Let me wish you the best of luck. And if you ever find yourself in a situation where you require assistance with any of those issues, you are aware of the precise location where I can be found. With a smile on her face, Diane experienced a wave of serenity and satisfaction that washed over her. This is a fact. Our appreciation goes out to you, Jason, for the reason that everything. Diane felt a fresh strength as they stood to depart. A determination to live a life that expanded beyond the limits of the troubles that her clients were suffering and the unrelenting grind that the courtroom provided. She felt free enough to explore this road for the very first time, despite the fact that she had no idea where it would lead her or what she would find along the way. In addition, as Jason watched her depart, he felt a rare sense of satisfaction, knowing that he had helped a friend find her path. He had been able to assist her in finding her way.
I mean, he's so busy, probably won't take my call, but I'm sure he'll pick up for his star fundraiser. I don't know where he is.
The atmosphere at General Hospital was fraught with tension as Sasha got off the elevator. Her eyes were flaming with purpose, and the environment was charged with anxiety. Enthusiastic activity could be heard throughout the hallways of the hospital. Willow was observed by her at the nurse's station, where she was examining the papers pertaining to a patient. No time passed before she became aware of her presence. Despite the fact that Sasha was already going through a storm inside of her, the sight of Willow's calm demeanor only served to make the storm exponentially worse. Willow welcomed Sasha with caution, perceiving that something was odd, but not wanting to run away from the circumstance. "Sasha," she said, "are we going to be okay with everything?" There was a hint of sarcasm in Sasha's voice as she said, "Oh, please, Willow." Willow was confused by her response. Don't act as if you don't know everything. Despite the fact that Willow's brow furrowed in real confusion, she experienced a fleeting glimpse of clarity that caused her to become dubious of the situation. When asked about Michael, the speaker stated, "If this is about Michael, then we are already going in circles. Let's not engage in this activity at this time." Sasha's eyes narrowed in concentration. "No, I am of the opinion that there is no other location that would be more suitable for us to hold this discussion than right here. Are you under the notion that you can give the impression that you are a saint, paint me as the villain, and then walk away without any consequences?" Willow corrected her posture while maintaining a transverse arm position. "In the interest of full disclosure, Sasha, I am not making any attempt to make you out to be anything. When it comes to Wiley and Michael, one thing I want is for them to have the best possible outcome." Sasha's mouth twisted up into a nasty smile, and the corners of her mouth turned up. When I look at it again, there it is. That conceited attitude of knowing what's best for everyone all the time. The manner in which you conduct yourself gives the appearance that you are always right, as if you are the only person who is aware of what is best for him. Willow took a step back, but the expression on her face remained the same as it had the moment before. "I am concerned about both Michael and Wiley at the same time. When it comes to expressing my point of view, I am completely within my rights. On the other hand, Sasha, you were able to engage in conversation with him. We are both aware of the factors that contributed to the failure of the endeavor." Sasha growled, "That's low," as she responded, her voice shaking slightly before she spoke. "Willow, I was going through a difficult period, and I am conscious of that. It is not appropriate for you to act as if you are above making mistakes, especially considering the fact that you have been through your own personal hell." Willow's expression eventually softened, but she continued to shake her head during the entire conversation. "It is not true that I am perfect. On the other hand, I was able to develop as a result of my experiences, and I did not continue to decline any further, Sasha. You continue to place blame on everyone else, including Michael and the world, when there are times when you need to confront the truth about yourself." As Sasha tightened her grip on her hands, she let out a nasty laugh. She was clenching her hands quite tightly. "What are your thoughts on the fact that I have not confronted myself? On a daily basis, I will be looking at it, Willow. It is possible for me to accept it, in contrast to you, Miss Mother Teresa, who pretends to have good intentions while casting judgment on everybody who does not live up to your ideals. I am able to live with it." Willow yelled out in response, "Stop acting like I'm the enemy here," as her patience began to wane during the course of the conversation. "All I want is for Michael and Wiley to be happy. And I don't see how bringing up the past is going to be of any assistance to anyone whatsoever. What about the past? Sasha continued to repeat herself, feeling incredulous. Before you came along and flipped everything upside down, Michael and I appeared to have something that was genuine. You could not possibly talk about the past as if it were inconsequential. There is no way that you could do that. As soon as Willow became aware that the nurses and staff were starting to take notice of the confrontation, she took a deep breath and made an effort to calm herself down. In order to make this clear, Sasha, I am not the one who was responsible for Michael's heart breaking. And that is you. The words hung in the air between them like a knife, slicing through the thin veneer of politeness that they had managed to maintain up until that point. The expression on Sasha's face changed from one of weakness to one of rage almost immediately after she experienced a brief moment of weakness. Do you understand what I'm trying to say, Willow? Although Michael and Wiley are currently a part of your life, you will never be able to comprehend him in the same manner that I did. This is true even if they participate in your life. The worries, the aspirations, and the uncertainties that he had were all made known to me. In spite of everything that took place, I loved him unconditionally. Willow lowered her voice as she talked, and her tone was so piercing that it was almost as if she was whispering. Dear Sasha, it is true that I am able to understand him. In addition to that, he has moved on. Perhaps it's time for you to do the same. At that precise instant, Sasha's eyes glowed with excitement, and before she had the chance to catch herself, she blurted out, "You are terrified, aren't you? I have a terrible fear that one day he will realize that what we discussed was accurate, and that you are nothing more than a safe choice. This is something that I could never see happening." The statement, which hit a nerve, caused Willow's face to swiftly become flushed with a mixture of anger and hurt. This occurred as a direct result of the statement. It is Sasha's opinion that you are completely unaware of the similarities that Michael and I have. Trust, respect, and understanding are the foundations upon which it is built. In other words, these are the things that you have forgotten. You truly believe that I discarded it. Sasha experienced a breakdown in her voice, despite the fact that she was making an attempt to keep her calm. Are you aware of how challenging it was to let him go, despite the fact that it was the decision that should have been made? I made the decision to give him up, because I wanted him to be happy and to have the chance to have a life that was not impacted by the errors that I had committed in the past. Willow was unable to stop herself from giving in to her emotions, despite the fact that she became more lenient. That contentment is something that he has only recently discovered. When it comes to Sasha, I do not want to get into a disagreement with you. On the other hand, you are obligated to admit that Michael has already made his choice already. As Sasha came to terms with the situation, her shoulders began to drop, and the expression of anger that she had been displaying began to fade away. During the time that she was saying, "I know he did, Willow," her voice carried a tone that was reminiscent of melancholy. However, this does not make it any easier to see him with you, to witness how he has continued as if we were of no consequence at all. This doesn't make it any less tough. Willow made a brief pause before extending her hand to Sasha. She was uncertain as to whether or not Sasha would accept the gesture. "What you mean is clear to me. You are not alone, Sasha. I have been through the experience of losing people who were important to you. Please accept my apologies as well. I'm sorry if I caused you any pain." In a tiny moment, Sasha entertained the idea of taking Willow's hand, but she refrained from doing so since she was too proud to even consider doing so. After taking a few steps back, she swallowed the lump that had developed in her throat and then pulled back. "Willow, Please don't act as if you are above everything that is going on. It's just as simple as that. You do not know all that Michael and I talked about, and you will never be able to know everything. You are not aware of a single thing. When Willow had finished taking a breath, she sighed and lowered her arm to her side. Or perhaps it is not. On the other hand, Sasha, I do love him. In addition to that, I want to make his life more joyful. Sasha was able to acknowledge the reality that she had been striving so hard to suppress by nodding her head, despite the fact that the words were both painful to hear and awful to acknowledge. Willow, if you want to avoid throwing anything away, you need to make sure that you never do. Owing to the fact that the experience of losing him is a sort of suffering that I would never wish to be passed on to another person. Willow was left standing there by herself, her heart weighed down by the gravity of the talk, when Sasha turned around and left after uttering what she had just said. However, she was convinced of one thing. She would battle to keep the life that she had established with Michael, even if it meant addressing harsh realities and severing friendships.